Michelle, how is Mexico likely to respond?
Well, we saw López Obrador this morning give his daily news conference, which he does every morning at 7 a.m., and he spoke for an hour, and it was actually, he can be very fiery, and he was actually very soft-spoken, very purposely not provocative. He has been this way ever since the campaign, trying not to poke the bear, so to speak, and his response was, we're going to send the foreign minister, and we're going to try to show them what we're doing about immigration, because there has been a surge. He did acknowledge, he said, we've got a lot of people coming through, Honduras. They are very frustrated by it as well, as is the Mexican population, and they would like it to stop as well.
So is your sense that they can actually do something to prevent these tariffs from going into place?
To prevent the tariffs from going into place, I don't know. What I would say is that Peter Navarro, I think, gives the Mexican government too much credit in their ability to control what's happening with migration. Mexico is a very, very corrupt place. You can be sure that these criminal gangs that he rightly points to have their talons deep within the regional governments, the local governments, and incentivize them to go along with the whole process. I'm not sure. You know, the same way we talk monolithically about China from the top down, and we actually have to doubt their ability to get down to the regional level. That's ditto for Mexico. There are parts of Mexico that are lawless and controlled by gangs, not by the government.
So if they were to do something about this that they're not doing already, what would that look like? Is it construction of something, some edifice? Is it more about enforcement?
I think it's more enforcement. They've already, so Mexico changed its immigration policy, right? When he came into office in December, he wanted to be, I'm talking about AMLO, had humanitarian intentions. So they gave out new visas to people in Central America, with the idea being, we'll give you a visa to stay in the southern part of Mexico, hoping they won't go north, right? But what happened? They had a huge surge. They had many, many, many people come. So they've had to reverse that policy. And earlier this month, they actually started a crackdown trying to stop. They reversed those visas and made it much more difficult. So I think much more involvement of the military to try to stop them coming north.
Kenny, is this the sort of thing that makes you rethink where you think the market's going this year?
Well, I think it is, at least today, right? Although I'm not so sure that I think this is going to continue. I think they're going to. He announces this, it creates all this drama, the market sells off. But then I do think that there's going to be conversations and negotiations between the U.S. and Mexico, and this is going to, unlike where Michelle said she thinks there's parts that are lawless. I actually think that they're going to make some progress, and I think that's what he wants to see, just progress. He wants to see somebody trying to assist in this immigration issue that both they have and we have.
So what does that mean? You're not negative on the market?
I'm not that negative on the market. I actually think the market's going to find some stability right in here between 27 and 27.25, churn for a little bit, and then start to focus once again on fundamentals. Look, these political issues and these trade issues will continue to cause a lot of noise and then short-term volatility in the market. But in the long term, they don't really price stocks unless it starts changing the fundamentals. And until we really see that happen, then I think the markets will be okay. If it drags on, then the fundamentals could change, and then that'd be another conversation. I think it's too early to say, because I think Mexico will come to the table, and I think that they will show that they're trying to make a change, and I think that will be enough to satisfy the markets.
Michelle, is there any hope to really stem the tide of these families, particularly women with children who are leaving Honduras, who are leaving Guatemala, or leaving El Salvador, and all these Central American countries where they are conceivably under threat from gangs or don't want their kids to become part of gangs, and making the trek?
We would have to change our immigration policies and our policies at the border. I started my career in Spanish television, Univision, and we covered immigration incessantly. That was 30 years ago. And back then, the people who were coming were young, solo men.
Right.
You didn't see women and families.
Right. They were looking for jobs.
But Central America was engulfed in civil war. I mean, it was extremely violent back then. This argument that now it's worse, don't believe that. It's been bad for a very long time. What has changed was, if you go back to around 2011, we started to widen our definition of why people could come. Domestic violence became one of the reasons why you could try to seek asylum. Political asylum used to be political asylum. When I was at Univision, I interviewed the one guy. He was the second person in modern history to have received political asylum, being from Mexico. It was extremely strict. It's gotten much wider. When you include domestic violence, when you include gender issues, you suddenly incentivize women coming. Those were done for humanitarian reasons, for good humanitarian reasons, right? But you can't make those decisions in a vacuum. If, to borrow the phrase dynamic scoring from OMB, if you're going to make those decisions, it leads to other consequences. You have to figure out, okay, what are we going to do now as a result of changing the incentive structure?